I don't need a husband with dementia who can't earn money anymore. You take care of him by yourself, Pamela, my mother-in-law said. She moved into a high-rise apartment with my husband, Oliver. I'm tired of living with you who can't even get along with my mother. Even Oliver, whom I thought was on my side, said this and left. I stood there shocked by the sudden turn of events. Finally, those idiots are gone. The one who reached out to me with these words was surprisingly Harrison, my father-in-law, who was supposed to have dementia. I am Na, 25 years old. Oliver and I are about to celebrate our second wedding anniversary. We both work and don't have children. Since we're both busy with our jobs, we decided not to have kids. Oliver and I work at the company run by Harrison. I joined the company as a mid-career hire a few years ago, and Oliver and I, being the only two in our cohort, quickly became friends. Unlike me, who is shy and reserved, Oliver is outgoing and sociable, always surrounded by people. I fell for Oliver without knowing he was the son of the president. Half a year after joining, when Oliver was transferred to another department, he confessed to me. I was planning to announce it to other employees when I transferred, but actually I'm the only son of the president and the next president, so I have to study a lot to become president. I might be busier than before, and we may not have much time together, but is that okay? I was surprised by his words. Until then, he had never shown any signs of being the president's son. I had no idea, but I don't mind if you're busy. I love my job and want to do my best, so it's fine if we don't have much time together. I was headhunted by the president to work at his company because of my multiple qualifications. In my previous company, I couldn't make full use of my qualifications, but now I enjoy my job immensely. That's why I wanted to focus on my career for a while. Hearing this, Oliver's expression relaxed. Really? That's great. Then let's work well together. And so Oliver and I started dating. I was surprised to learn he was the president's son, but I was more thrilled to be dating him. After a year and a half of dating, Oliver and I got married. Even after marriage, both of us were career-focused and didn't have much time together, but when we did have time off, we would go out together. Those modest times with Oliver were my greatest happiness. Now both of us hold positions in the company and are doing well in our jobs. But then an unexpected event happened. Harrison, the company's owner, suddenly fell ill. After surgery, he recovered enough to lead a normal life, but it was difficult for him to continue working. Since Oliver was still inexperienced, Harrison entrusted the presidency to his most trusted subordinate and retired from the company. That's when the discussion of living with my in-laws started. Pamela, my mother-in-law, proposed the idea one day. Oliver and I were called to the in-laws' house by Pamela. Harrison was out on errands, and only Pamela, Oliver, and I were at the house. I'm getting old, and my bones ache. I can't take care of Harrison alone, Pamela said in a gentle tone, then turned to Oliver, begging, I'm busy with work too. Even if we live together, I can't take care of Dad. But hiring a house aide would be helpful. If someone could help with the housework, Pamela said, looking at me. But I can't quit my job either, said Oliver, also looking at me. What is this? They want me to quit my job? As I remained silent, Pamela, losing patience, spoke up. That's it. Nina should retire and take care of Oliver. Pamela, who had been so meek, was now showing a completely different side. The project we're currently working on in our department relies heavily on my qualifications. At the very least, I can't quit until it's finished. However, Pamela and Oliver ruthlessly interrupted me. I can't wait for something like that. My body will break down. In the meantime, we can just recruit someone else with the same qualifications. If we explain the situation to the current president, he'll understand. I was quite shocked by Oliver's words. He had seen up close how much I loved my job, yet Oliver didn't defend me at all and sided with Pamela. I felt a bit uneasy about Oliver's attitude. It seemed too quick for him to accept me quitting my job to take care of Harrison. It was as if he knew about this beforehand. But at the same time, I thought there was some truth in Oliver's words. Unlike Oliver, who was the next president, I was just another employee with qualifications easily replaceable. All right, but make sure to hire someone to replace me. Really, thank you. Don't worry about the rest. I'll talk to the current president right away. Pamela and Oliver's faces lit up instantly. I reluctantly tolerated it, despite my dissatisfaction with them. That's how our cohabitation with my in-laws began. And I quit my job, as they said, and took care of the house and Harrison every day. Harrison seemed to be quite considerate of me. "I'm sorry, nah, I can handle things myself. Don't worry," he'd say every time he helped. The only thing I did for Harrison was carry heavy things for him, and it wasn't particularly hard. The hardest part was the household chores. Since we started living together, I have never seen Pamela doing any housework. She goes out almost every day and is hardly ever at home during the day. I was the wife of a president after all. It's natural for me to have a wide social circle, she'd say. Even now, for Oliver's sake, I maintain good relationships with my acquaintances. Pamela would say this and go out fashionably dressed every day. Pamela, who said she was in pain and having a hard time taking care of Oliver, could go out dressed up every day. My dissatisfaction with Pamela gradually grew. While Pamela was out, all the house chores were dumped on me. Moreover, when Pamela came home, she would complain about my chores. When Harrison wasn't looking, she'd say, "Nah, you're cleaning this area all wrong," and make me redo the chores from scratch, no matter the time. One day, after months of enduring, I finally snapped back at Pamela as she complained about my housework. "If I'm doing it wrong, could you please show me how you do it?" I asked, but Pamela responded, "Can't you figure it out yourself? Do it on your own." And she went back to her room. Feeling hopeless, I decided to talk to Oliver. "You know, Pamela seems to be unhappy with my cooking and cleaning. She won't tell me how to do it her way. Can you ask her about it?" Oliver sighed heavily. "I'm tired with work. I can't deal with Mom, and you handle your relationship with mother-in-law yourself." Lately, Oliver had been coming home less and less, supposedly busy with work. I was shocked to be pushed away by Oliver, whom I thought was my ally. Since then, Oliver became increasingly irritable at home, and our conversations dwindled. Recently, Oliver often came home drunk in the middle of the night. I pretended not to notice the smell of women's perfume soaked into his suit. I was beginning to feel overwhelmed, carrying so much stress alone. Harrison's memory was getting worse by the day. Watching him, Pamela complained disdainfully, "That man has finally become demented." Harrison's forgetfulness worsened, and recently, he couldn't even recognize Pamela or Oliver. "I had a son. His name was Harrison." He would tell me the same story every day. I felt sad that Harrison, who was so loving towards his son, had forgotten Oliver. Even as Harrison's condition deteriorated, Oliver kept saying he was too busy with work to care for his family. Pamela, as usual, was often out and seemed uninterested in Harrison. Both Pamela and Oliver, who had been so kind to Harrison when he was lucid, changed their attitudes drastically as his memory worsened. I thought I had to take care of Harrison properly, so I listened to his stories attentively every day. Then, one day, something happened. As usual, I was cooking dinner, waiting for Pamela and Oliver to return. Then, the front door opened. I heard Pamela and Oliver's voices. "Oliver is back too. That's unusually early for today," I thought. As I went to the entrance, I was stunned by the sight. Pamela and Oliver, standing at the door, were both holding large suitcases. "Nah, Oliver and I have decided to move. Oliver bought a high-rise apartment in an upscale neighborhood. We'll be living there from today," Pamela said proudly, looking at me dumbfounded. "A high-rise apartment? I haven't heard anything about this. Are Harrison and I moving later?" Pamela laughed mockingly at my panic. "Oh, Nina, you and Harrison will live separately. A husband with dementia who can't earn money is no longer needed. You take care of him." I was dumbfounded by her laughing statement. "How can you say such things about a husband you've been with for years?" I demanded. "Shut up. I only married him because he was a wealthy president. I was kind only because he was making money. But that ends today," Pamela declared angrily. I felt real anger towards Pamela. It seemed useless to argue with her. Without responding to Pamela, I turned to Oliver. "Oliver, are you serious? Abandoning Harrison like this? Do you think it's acceptable?" When I appealed to Oliver, he replied with exasperation, If Mom thinks it's good, then it's fine, right? I don't care what happens to Dad. I've already been set on the path to becoming the next president. Besides, I've grown tired of you too. I'm tired from work, and all I hear from you is complaints about Mom. I'm sick of it. I couldn't believe Oliver's words. I did talk to you about Pamela, but I never complained. I only consulted you once. I haven't done anything to make you fed up, I protested emotionally. Anyway, I'm tired. I'll be living with Mom for a while. So don't contact me persistently. Oliver had been irritable lately, but he had never expressed his dissatisfaction with me. I was deeply confused by his sudden announcement of separation. You can keep all the furniture and appliances in this house since we're getting new ones. Well then, take care. With that, Pam cheerfully left the house with Oliver. I stood there, unable to comprehend, when suddenly the living room door opened and Harrison peered out worriedly. What's wrong? Where did everyone go? As I struggled to find words, Harrison suddenly spoke clearly. Those idiots finally left, huh? I looked up in surprise at his words. Harrison, what did you just say? Seeing my shock, Harrison smiled mischievously. I'm sorry, All that forgetfulness was just an act. I was lying to expose their true natures. Harrison's forgetfulness was all a lie. I was so shocked I was speechless. Calm down and listen. Both Mom and Oliver are having affairs with people from the company. I had suspected Mom for a while, but when I hired a detective, I found out about Oliver's affair too. They were always making excuses not to be at home, saying it's about social connections or work, but it was all lies. Oliver and Pamela were both having affairs, so the times Pamela went out, she was meeting her lover. I covered my mouth in shock. Did you notice Oliver's affair? Harrison seemed surprised by my reaction. Yes, well, Oliver's suit smelled of women's perfume every day, so I kind of knew he was cheating. Recently, Oliver had been spending less time at home and often seemed irritable. Plus, he had just left the house for some unclear reason. It all made sense. Also, Oliver has been embezzling money from the company, using his position as the next president. He's been spending a lot on his lover, the high-rise in Harbin, and the interiors they were talking about earlier. They're probably using that money. Harrison's words were calm, but filled with definite anger. Embezzling company funds, Oliver? With so many revelations at once, my head was spinning. I didn't know whether to be angry or sad. Seeing my expression, Harrison said apologetically, "It's understandable to be confused after hearing all of this." Suddenly, I denied Harrison's apology. Don't apologize, Harrison. You did nothing wrong. And now that I've heard all this, I can't continue my marriage with Oliver. I can't forgive him for easily betraying a son-loving father like you. Hearing my words, Harrison thought for a moment, then slowly said, If you're okay with it, there's something I want your help with. Shall we punish these two together? I nodded firmly at Harrison's proposal. Please let me help. We need to teach those two a lesson. Then, on the weekend, Harrison and I visited the high-rise apartment where Pamela and Oliver were living. I had called them, saying I needed to deliver something forgotten at the in-laws. I'm not sure what's needed, so I'd like Oliver to be at home too. I told them I was coming alone. I rang their video doorbell while Harrison waited out of sight of the camera. Oh, long time no see. How's living with Harrison? We're having a comfortable life in this high-rise. Pamela sneered at me through the video doorbell. Just open the door, please. Annoyed, Pamela snorted and abruptly turned off the video doorbell. Seconds later, the front door opened and Pamela appeared. You've become quite defiant, haven't you? That's why Oliver got tired of you. Long time no see. How's living with Oliver? Pamela widened her eyes in shock at the voice. Harrison, why are you here? Pamela's surprise was understandable. Instead of me, Harrison was standing in front of her. You're living in a nice place. Must be hard with just Oliver's salary. I wonder where all this money comes from. Pamela looked incredulous and shocked. You were severely forgetful here. Harrison glared at her as she spoke in a trembling voice. By the way, a husband with dementia who can't earn money is useless, right? I don't want to see your face either, but forgive me today. It all ends. Harrison spoke sarcastically, and Pamela's face grew paler. Was it all a lie that you were severely forgetful? What are you trying to achieve with such a cowardly trick? Oh, come on, you're saying that? Weren't you the one who lied first? How dare you deceive me and nah? Harrison's words were calm, but they carried a chilling undertone. Hey, Mom, what's going on? Hearing the commotion at the entrance, Oliver came out of the living room looking annoyed. However, upon seeing Harrison, Oliver's complexion changed drastically. Dad, why are you here then? Harrison's expression turned terrifyingly grim as he looked at Oliver. You idiot son, why did you betray Nah? Harrison, who was usually calm, yelled at Oliver with an emotional intensity that was hard to believe. I was astounded by the forcefulness of the usually gentle Harrison. Nah cared for me every day, even when you two lost interest in me. Such a good person. How could you betray her? Wait, what betrayal are you talking about? Is there some misunderstanding? Oliver, in a panic, was met with a thick envelope thrown at him by Harrison. Photos of Oliver entering a hotel with an unknown woman and walking arm in arm spilled out from the envelope. Don't think you can fool me. I've been preparing this for a long time. There's plenty of evidence. As Harrison spoke, Pamela suddenly screamed. They're photos of me too. Among the many photos, there were also numerous ones capturing Pamela's infidelity. I've known for a long time. You two making it easier to cheat by making Nah care for me, right? Right. It's over between us. And of course, I'll be seeking compensation. As Harrison said this, Pamela's face twisted in frustration. Well, that's fine. Oliver is the next president now. We're not short of money. I'll pay the compensation. Pamela snorted confidently, still seeming composed. Ah, about that, Oliver. You're fired as of this month. Harrison cut Pamela off with a clear statement. What? I'm fired? Why? Oliver's voice trembled. You used your position as the next president to do whatever you pleased, right? I already know about the embezzlement. You've been keeping the staff quiet for quite a while. Oliver began to tremble slightly at Harrison's words. That's not true. There's a reason for it. I don't want to hear excuses. I know all about the branded goods you've been buying for your mistress. Harrison spoke ruthlessly. Oliver choked on his words. I pretended to have dementia to uncover this. You were thorough in covering your tracks, so I made you think I had dementia to catch you off guard. You immediately moved to this high-rise apartment. You're too careless. How did you find out? I silenced all the employees who knew about the embezzlement, Oliver blurted out in a panic. The current president was my most trusted subordinate. He's really competent and noticed your misconduct quickly. He was just struggling to find legal evidence. That's why I acted like I had dementia. Hearing Harrison's story, Oliver collapsed to his knees. Legally prosecuted? That can't be. I'm the next president. Oliver was flustered, and Pamela's face turned pale beside him. What if Oliver is fired? How will we live? And if he gets a criminal record? Harrison looked at them with cold eyes. Oh, Oliver, what you did is a serious crime. You'll have to pay for it. Also, the position of next president isn't something you earned yourself. I knew you weren't capable. That's why I didn't make you president immediately. But instead of growing, you misused your position and broke the rules. It's a pity. Harrison's tone sounded somewhat sad. Oliver's eyes filled with tears at his words. Damn, nah, you won't leave me, right? Oliver looked up at me with pleading eyes, but seeing him like that, I felt nothing for him anymore. Sorry, but we're getting a divorce. I can't stay married to someone who commits infidelity and crimes. Besides, you betrayed me and Harrison first. Goodbye. No, not Nah, too, Oliver cried out in anguish, his face wet with tears. Beside him, Pamela stood in a daze, shell-shocked. From now on, communicate through a lawyer. Let's go, Nah. Harrison said this to the two of them and then left the scene with me. Afterward, my in-laws quickly got divorced. My divorce from Oliver was finalized soon after their divorce. Pamela and Oliver, who committed adultery, were demanded to pay a lump sum as compensation. However, the two of them had squandered their savings and ended up having to borrow money to pay the compensation. Moreover, Harrison, adding insult to injury, sued Oliver for embezzling company funds. As a result, Oliver was fired from the company and faced a heavy compensation claim. Additionally, the rumor about Oliver spread to other companies in the same industry, making it difficult for him to find new employment. Now, the two of them are struggling to make ends meet, desperately working day and night at part-time jobs. On the other hand, I was invited by Harrison to return to the company. "You're an excellent employee, Nina. Our company needs you," he said. Accepting the invitation, I returned to work with renewed vigor. Perhaps due to my return to a job I love, I've been told I look happier and more radiant. From now on, I plan to live freely for myself. Let me know if there's anything else you need assistance with.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick, is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike. What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that?" "Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.